I want to talk about the recession of pro sports in America, and I'm very intentional about using that word recession. I'm not implying or saying that sports leagues, professional sports, is dying or going extinct. I just think it's going to take a new, diminished role in our culture and in our economy, down from its heights, its peaks in the 80s and 90s. And I'm also going to talk about a little bit about college sports, because college sports, as you know, are no longer amateur. They are also professional. And I'm going to make a few points that are similar between the established professional leagues and college. And since this is a pool channel, I want to talk about what pool can learn, what pool's doing right, and how pool can avoid making the same mistakes that these leagues are making. Now, the first mistake and the first reason why they are taking a step backwards is they have the attitude that they were too big and important to fail. And nothing is too big, nothing is too important to fail. All things eventually do come to an end, but with that kind of pride and that kind of arrogance, they're just blind to that fact. Now, all of this, the reason why these sports leagues are going backwards, and it's easy to see that that's true of the NHL. It's easy to see of the MLB. NBA's lost half of their audience in the last 4 or 5 years. You could argue that the NFL has maintained its popularity, but I'm going to tell you how that's probably going to change very soon. And all of it emanates from greed, first and foremost. Over the years, they've slowly increased the price of tickets. They've increased the price of concessions, the price of souvenirs. They've slowly but surely priced out the middle class. There is no way I could take my family or would shell out the money that an NFL experience demands. The second and more important point, especially for the NFL, is this: how fans were made was the TV being on, the local broadcast being free, parents not worrying about just putting the game on as background noise, and the kids were running around, and that was their exposure to sports. That's how fans were made. My grandmother became a Packers fan, and we lived in Louisiana because the Packers game was always available and free. So she loved the Packers. A lot of the Cowboy fandom in North Louisiana, where I grew up, came from the fact that the Shreveport affiliates always aired the Cowboy games. So that aided the Cowboys' popularity. Now, there has been this wider trend of cord cutting, and everything is moving over to streaming. But what's happening with the streaming is, to watch all the stuff that you used to be able to watch, you have to pay more and more. And I heard it said that to watch all of an NBA season, you have to pay something like $700, which no regular person is going to do. No parent is going to pay super money just to have a game on like they used to. And maybe the kids watch it, maybe they don't. I don't see that as happening. Now, I believe that college sports is going down the same path. Recently, I've heard it said that private equity is getting into the business of college athletics. And you know what that means. Private equity doesn't care about personal connection and tradition, or the people that they're dealing with, either the employees or the customer. What they're concerned with is looking at a spreadsheet and making as much money off as many cells in that spreadsheet as possible. So they were going to nickel and dime the fans to death, and the overall quality of the experience is going to diminish. And you'll see what I'm saying really soon as they start to invade more and more into college sports. So accessibility is going away. And they're gonna, as the players, and I've never been opposed to players making money, as the players demand higher and higher salaries, that revenue to support that is going to have to come from somewhere. So the other aspect of it is of the college sports and this money race is that I believe that there's going to be a lot of smaller schools who are going to eliminate nonprofit sports, nonprofit making sports like Olympic sports. And then some of your smaller schools are going to eliminate athletics altogether because they're just not going to be able to afford paying the salaries. So what does that do? That eliminates potential fans in those smaller regions. So it's going to contract. Just like what I think is going to happen to the NFL as everything moves into streaming and it gets more exclusive and streaming packages get more expensive, you're going to have a smaller and smaller exposure to the next generation of fans. And that's what's going to accelerate the recession of sports in America. It's no longer going to be this broad appeal type of cultural thing. Of all of the kids, Gen Z kids in my family, none of them are big sports fans. That's my kids, my nieces and nephews, my cousins' kids, and I believe it's because of how these leagues are distributed, and of course the overall cost. So now on to pool. What can pool learn? What is pool doing right, and what can pool avoid? Back in the early 2010s, this is around about the time, I could have my timeline off, when the IPT folded. I felt like, okay, pool's probably going to be extinct, especially as a professional sport. It's just going to go away. But now there's more tournaments on than ever. There's more prize money than ever. Pool looks like it's doing well. It really did come back from the brink. And what do I attribute that to? Well, the first thing is back to my points about these leagues, accessibility. Streaming came along, really saved pool, because a lot of these streams are free to very inexpensive. And then you have all the highlights, you have instructions, you have like channels like this one where you have accessibility to instructional content, you have accessibility to professional matches, tournaments, interviews, all of it free, all of it on social media, all of it shareable. So what it's done is it's created a next generation of fans. And I believe that's what pool has been doing right. The other thing with pool is that you have accessibility to players. You can go to a tournament, very cheap to free, to go sweat a tournament, cheap to free to meet a player, get an autograph, even play a professional player. So if pool really does grow in popularity, I hope they never lose sight of the things that's made them come back from extinction, made them viable as much as they are now. So, all right, well, that's about all I have. If you disagree with anything, just make a comment, start a conversation. See you in the next video.